Hello, everyone. Welcome to the IEEE Communication Society podcast number 12. And today we are very, fortunate enough to have Professor Kai-Kit Wong from University College London in the UK. And he's an expert in several of the, latest 6G technology that we are talking about, especially coming to the large antenna arrays, fluid antenna systems, and several other techniques that I know of that Kit is working on. But we will touch on some of these in the podcast today. So with this, welcome, Kit, to our podcast.
Thank you, Ian, for giving me this opportunity to show up in your show. Really, I'm excited and nervous as well.
You don't look nervous, but it's fine, if you say so. So, Kit, maybe I can start with some technical discussion on the background of 6G that we actually have. So recently, we have the ITUR approved, IMT 2030/6G framework. So where we have, different key usage scenarios related to like having multifunctionality on board. Let's say with, bringing on sensing, bringing on, AI applications. And there are many objectives that we are trying to achieve, right? So, through the ubiquitous connectivity, through the ubiquitous intelligence per se. And also we are looking into some scalability factors, some sustainability sort of objectives, and also intelligence is one of the main aspects of the 6G framework that we are, we have the general sort of consensus about. So I wanted to ask you, what kind of activities, research activities and development activities or any prototypes or any, experiments or something that your group is working on, any topics that you would like to touch in general related to this IMT 2030 framework that we have with us?
Yeah, okay. So first of all, generally, 6G or even 5G, 4G cycle, when I was, starting from as a student, now became a professor and working on this area. I see that conventionally in the old days, we're only interested in pushing the envelope. Like, I don't care about the applications that much because we are not the one who define the applications. So therefore, we're always like, so we need spectral efficiency higher, energy efficiency higher, signal to noise ratio, whatever. We take the sort of more like analytical perspective and then try to evaluate the system in that way and push the envelope by developing new technology like that, But of course, since the past probably 10 years, things start to change a little bit because, probably, this approach, more like the academic-led approach, doesn't actually bring enough revenue to the industry. The industry need to understand, how can I transfer this sort of new capacity into money-making, machine, whatever. So therefore, there's like a little bit of struggle over the 10 years, past 10 years I see. So therefore, people leaning more towards, the application-driven type of research. So, and there's nothing right or wrong. I think this is a good approach, from a lot of perspectives as well. So that's why we see, this sort of new domain like, edge caching combined with mobile communication, wireless power transfer. Now, in recent days, ISAC reached actually, helping a lot in terms of the growth of the wireless community. So I think right now, if you talk about researchers are more mixed, like, so on one hand, there are some people like me, more old-fashioned, like, I don't really look at, or I don't focus too much on what application there is, and then we just try to push the envelope in terms of the capacity limit or other limits, whatever. And then there are other people who are actually more interested in, so communication cannot be just communication. It has to be, bring in computation here because we have AI, federated learning and all this stuff. And ISAC, sensing and communications together. So it's so fascinating development. So therefore, if you ask me about 6G, IMT 2030, so my take on it is slightly different. I don't think that I'm knowledgeable enough to understand everything about IMT 2030. But I probably handpick several so challenging problems that I feel, that interests me a lot. And then, let me just, have my teams to, focus on those. So one of those problems is, let's say, massive connectivity. I know that this is not a new problem. In fact, 5G, in the development cycle of 5G, people already spoke a lot on that and then try to push that. And now, we still have massive connectivity, but probably we're talking about extreme massive connectivity, massive, supermassive, connectivity that we're talking about. So this is actually one of the drivers in my research. So speaking on the activities in UCL, let's say my group, of course, I'm very generally, have a broad interest in 6G. So I did work that a lot of people, really interested in, for example, some, using AI, or technologies for wireless communication optimization in the physical layer. Oh, by the way, my expertise is more focusing on the physical layer.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm also kind of interested in upper layer a little bit, but but not so much. Maybe it's related, and I'll touch on that. But really, the activities will be focusing on physical layer. And other area like ISAC and physical security, caching, UAV, so all this stuff. Actually, I'm interested in. I also work a little bit on that. But because now today I have this unique opportunity to tell you about my activities, I will probably pick out two probably less conventional, activities that we're doing.
So before we touch on that, so I would like to mention, just to sum up what you said, is that so 6G we are imagining just beyond communications, beyond connectivity. Unlike IMT 2020 or 5G that we were calling, right, where we were more centric about communications per se.
Right.
But now we are moving beyond connectivity, having sensing, having AI, also using AI for comms and comms for AI as well, right?
True. Exactly.
And trying to come up with different sort of use case oriented applications, right? In like in disaster management or public safety applications where we need drones, direct connectivity from our satellite and so on. So the idea is that we want to make it massively connected ecosystem, but at the same time we want to make it more intelligent, dynamic, and more adaptable to the changes in the propagation environment.
That's why AI comes in naturally, and then it becomes
cloud native AI
something
solutions.
very necessary to do. So it's unstoppable. Definitely AI will be part of this, and major part of this. Because you mentioned about all these diverse applications. And all these diverse sort of criteria or requirements that we need to hit. Okay, so conventional optimization technique is not going to cut it.
And the idea is also to combine many different fields together. So like we are doing with this our ComSoc ETI, the newly adopted ETI that we have, the Emerging Technology Initiative.
Yes, congratulations. This is a big deal.
To you as well.
To me as well.
Yeah. So we are doing this electromagnetic wave theory combined with signal processing, combined with information theory. So you're trying to ease down on your mathematical expressions with, information theory approaches, trying to use probabilistic models or something in your Maxwell equations, these complex physics equations. And then you're also trying to, use some good convex optimization approaches or something, from the signal processing aspects. So the idea is to really combine many things to come out with some new sort of solutions. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it is quite a timely approach. And because, my activity in the group, like I said, there are some activities that are actually not conventional or not as popular, so therefore mainly probably will be done within ourselves. One area is free antenna system. The other area is what I call surface wave communications. So let's talk about the surface wave communications for a moment. Not many people do it, and then we actually, even in my group, only probably a handful of people working on this, okay, because we probably invest more energy on the free antenna system, which we're trying to put through to the community right now. So of course, over the past 10 years, one topic is so explosive, which is RIS, right? Reconfiguring intelligent surfaces. So I'm working on that as well, since the beginning. When I see, a lot of people actually introduce this idea, I thought like, wow, that's brilliant, all this passive, intelligent reflection, which sort of reshape the propagation environments to improve the communication network. So brilliant. But then one area that I think the community didn't actually look at is that intelligent surface can be used not just as a reflector, as a smart reflector. It can be used as a propagation medium. So this is one of the areas that we actually, I think only us actually working on it. It's like, what if you have a large...
Soon we will catch up as well.
What if there's a large intelligent surface and actually wave propagate comes in, and of course, one obvious choice is that, okay, we just bounce the signal, of course in a good way. So therefore, it helps the communication. But another opportunity is that in fact, an intelligent surface could actually suck in the wave and then let the wave propagate along the surface, by some distance before it's actually got released again, okay, to the wireless medium. So this is one of the areas that we're working on. So not just using intelligent surface as a reflector, okay, intelligent reflector, but a propagation medium, okay? So why this will be useful? Okay, imagine if I'm the base station and you're the user and I like to transmit my signals to you, but somehow there's a building just blocking in front of us. So this is the traditional blocking or shuttering scenario.
Exactly.
So one possibility is, of course, we have to design it right. Otherwise, there's no gain, okay? But ideally, what we can do is the wave still come through the building, but not come through the building, but actually the wave got stuck in on the surface of the building and then just glide along the surface of the building, whoop, okay? So go into the backside of the building and then got released to the user.
Interesting.
Okay? So that would require the surface of the building, let's say being intelligent surface, but as a propagation medium rather than a reflector, because reflector is not going to cut it because you don't reflect the signal to the backside, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, this is one thing that we're working on it. So therefore, I think it would be useful to mention this. And then we have a couple of papers. I think just this year got published in Open Journal of ComSoc and also IEEE Access and TCOM as well. So if you're interested, of course I can send you the list.
Yeah,
of the
we can put it here in the video.
To look at. But the major activities right now in my group is on free antenna system. Okay, so have you heard about free antenna system before?
Yes, I have, and through you.
Okay, so in fact, just introduce what it is. I have a short answer and I have a long answer, okay? The short answer is very easy. Short answer is, okay, it's a name for antenna system, but that actually represents any shape flexible, position flexible antenna technologies, okay? And that's what it is. So therefore, it is actually can be understood as new degree of freedom to the physical layer, full stop. That would be the definition, okay? But of course, I believe that because, when I have this, introduce this to the community, I have a lot of question, flow back to me. And, let's say, for example, some people will be saying, okay, so this is reconfigurable antenna, right? So, and I would say yes, but they would say, then why you're changing the name? Why you're, introducing a new name called free antenna system? What's the point, right? Okay, my explanation is simple. In fact, a few years ago, when we look at reconfigurable antennas from the antenna community, you would realize that the antenna people, when they talk about reconfigurable antenna system, they never talk about position flexibility. Why? Because an antenna expert will be saying, okay, I design antenna for you. I don't really care where you put it. I will design the best antenna for you, okay?
Yeah.
They wouldn't really care about where you put it, okay? So because to them, what they care about is, okay, mutual coupling, all this radiation, return loss, isolation, radiation pattern, radiation efficiency, the list go on. But nothing concerned about where exactly you place the antenna, because to them, it's the same. They never concern about the propagation environment, but to us physical layer people, we concern about the position antenna. Why? Because look at the example of MIMO. Okay, why MIMO become powerful? Well, because if you fixate your antenna in a certain position, maybe you're lucky, the signal is good. Maybe you're not lucky, the signal is bad. So therefore, multiple antenna technologies comes in and say, okay, well, we don't know anyway, okay? Things change. Now it's good here, but, maybe not good later. So just put multiple so that you kind of invest, in a multiple basket instead of one.
Yeah.
Then in the end, you have diverse benefit. Diverse benefit can be converted into multiplexing gain, and then all this multi-user diversity, et cetera, all these benefits come because physical layer people like us realize the benefit of position diversity of the antenna, okay? So this is what it is. So therefore, if you look at the reconfigurable antenna community, yes, they can reconfigure a lot of stuff, okay?
Yeah.
But they never reconfigure the position. But I do understand that reconfigurable antenna, it doesn't actually have a definition. It's just a very generic, broad name. Well, as long as you have an antenna that can change whatever characteristic, you can call it reconfigurable antenna. So therefore, I would never disagree with people saying that, okay, free antenna system is reconfigurable antenna. I would say, yes, you're right, okay?
Yeah.
But the justification for me to use a different name is that, okay, because if I simply call it reconfigure antenna, people, at least the antenna people, would not be thinking about, okay, you're talking about position flexibility, because this is never part of the definition of reconfigure antenna. Okay, so now then comes the question: why you call it fluid antenna system? Are you using fluid material or liquid material for the antenna?
Yeah.
I would say yes and no, because fluid antenna system, the terminology that I introduced is never link specific to an implementation technology. You can use liquid metal to do it if you like to exploit the flexibility of the materials to do shake flexibility, or maybe to change the position. Actually, we implemented one a few years ago, actually using liquid metal, and then you're using pump air in and out to shift the location of the antenna to realize this sort of position flexibility concept. Okay?
Nice.
But of course, this is not just the only approach. We actually, later on, we try other way as well. We use metal materials to do it. We also use reconfigure pixels to do it, which I can get more into it a little bit later on. So therefore, there's never a question of how we implement it, because I'm not an implementation person. If you look at my CV, I never make antenna myself. So therefore, when I introduced this concept, probably 4 or 5 years ago, and in fact, I had this concept 10 years ago, but I started publishing from 2020. So therefore, let's say 5 years ago, then I never think about how do we implement it. I'm just a theorist. I was just thinking about what if I have something that can change the position and shape of the antenna. These would be new degree of freedom in the physical layer, and then we can do so much on that. So this is how I actually started. This would be the so-called. So that's why I call it fluid antenna system.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. That probably not a strong reason. Actually, when I came up with this idea 10 years ago, I actually traveled back home from university with my colleague, Kenneth Tong. He's my close collaborator as well, because he's an antenna expert. We talk, a lot of stuff. One of the things that we talk about was his frustration about getting research funding in the UK when he was working on antenna. And then I share a lot of pain from him, because I realized that, well, you're working on antenna, but clearly in the community and even the funding agents, they would think that antenna research is mature. So no matter how great that you guys can do, probably it's difficult to show enough appreciation and to see that there's still a big delta there. So that's why he was so frustrated about, okay, come on, right? We keep developing better antenna, but people not appreciating that. I told him in front, plainly is that I think maybe the reason is that you guys do too great. The antenna now is so efficient, so cheap. So
Yeah.
what else,
the need?
right?
Yeah, exactly.
You write another proposal asking for another 500K, people are not going to give you. So in fact, that was the conversation that we had, and at the beginning, I was just hoping to help him to see what you can do now. Okay, I actually respect researchers like that. Okay, so stubborn to push the envelope, in their specialties. But it's so hard for them, okay, because antenna is really quite a mature area. That's a fact.
Yeah.
So then I suggested, well, maybe you guys need to think about designing antennas that not just affecting antenna. You need to affect the whole wireless network. Then I start sharing my experience or the lesson I learned from the physical layer, and I say, look, MIMO, okay? MIMO is not just putting multiple antenna. That's simple, because then people then change how communication is taking place in the physical layer. Not only that, then multiple users, how multiple user signals need to be managed. It changed the network protocol. It changed all layers in the end. So it's just a simple idea, putting multiple antenna.
Yeah.
So if you can design antenna that actually have that sort of impact, the impact go beyond antenna, then it's different. Maybe then you can survive.
Interesting.
Then we casually, develop our conversation. In the end, okay, during these, underground trip back home, okay, because we actually live quite close to each other in North London. Then I say, well, can antenna, change the position? Then, I just randomly say, because I say, if you can change it, I don't need MIMO, right? That's That's the discussion. And he say, yeah, why not? Then he told me something that I didn't know at the time. He said, you know what? You can use water antenna. I say, really? Water can be antenna? How come? He said, U.S. Navy already using seawater for antenna. Okay, they have a warship sucking seawater, checking it out, control the dimension of the seawater, that control the radio the frequency, and then they achieve long-range communication. I say, wow, that's brilliant. And then we start talking about, liquid and all that.
How long was this trip?
Well, our normal trip is normally 35 minutes, in the tube, from Russell Square to where we live. So therefore, we have that. And then, of course, and my colleague and friend Kenneth and me also, did a little bit of martial arts as well. But we're not good at that, okay? Let me just make it clear. So therefore, we of course, are a big fan of Bruce Lee as well. So therefore, Bruce Lee's philosophy came up, in the middle of our conversation as well.
Be like water.
Then, water antenna, be water, my friend, right? That's what Bruce Lee said. Then we say, yeah, be water, my antenna. That's what it is, right? So then, of course, then we use the name Fluid Antenna System because we deliberately not using water because water antenna is a thing.
Yeah.
So if we say water antenna system, then people will realize, oh, you're using water as antenna.
Yeah.
But we don't want to limit that, okay? Just like I said, it is more about the concept. So therefore, okay, let's call it Fluid Antenna System. But then, in fact, during that conversation, later on, we also kind of self-critical about, well, maybe a better name, right? How about flexible antenna system? Maybe this will be better received by other people. But then he said, because he's speaking from the antenna community, he said, no. Flexible antenna means something else, okay, in the antenna community. Because it's like you put an antenna on a textile or, fabric that you can fold, whatever. It's kind of that, it's not exactly that. So therefore, we then abandon all name and say, okay, forget it, okay? We can never figure out the best name possible. Yeah. Just stick with it, okay? Fluid Antenna System, whatever that is. And in fact, in our first few publications, we actually mentioned that, okay, Fluid Antenna System, it doesn't have to be fluid, okay? It can be reconfigured pixel and the other thing. So we actually mentioned that. But I realized that, wow, researchers, okay, they're busy, okay? They don't read every little print there. Yeah. So therefore, I believe that, at least for the first two years, at least when people read these, they would be really believe that, oh, you're talking about using fluid materials as antenna. And of course, since then, I've tried to make a lot of clarification over time. Yeah. And hopefully people nowadays, they realize that, yes, the name is Fluid Antenna System, but there's nothing to do with fluid. You can use fluid, you can use other things like pixels, whatever, that to realize this is what we call shake flexible, position flexible antenna technologies. Now, going back to the new ETI that we were so happy to have this accepted. So the electromagnetic, right? Information and signal theory, whatever. Okay, I think ESIT, right? Yeah. So electromagnetic and signal and information theory. I think something like that. Yeah. So closely related to the work that I'm doing now for the Fluid Antenna System, because the one way that we implement the Fluid Antenna System is to use what we call pixel antenna, okay? So pixel antenna is actually, this idea, okay, kind of independent to Fluid Antenna System. It actually started in the antenna community probably, I don't know, maybe in the 90s, in the 20th century, okay? So I was not expert on that. But when I look into what are the possible technologies out there in the antenna community that may be able to achieve this position and shake flexibility for antenna, I keep looking, okay? Yeah. Because I like the using fluid material, but I don't like it enough, let's say, because I don't like the delay. Because if you take 1 second, let's say 1 second is actually pretty fast, or maybe half second to change the position of antenna. For some application, maybe it's all right. But for my love, okay, my love in wireless communication is I would like to address massive connectivity for multi-user communication, sharing on the same frequency channel or time frequency resources. Let's say my dream is to have a solution that I can let thousands or maybe even more users to share the same physical channel, okay?
Yeah.
So without doing a lot of optimization, okay?
Yeah.
So that's really, really what I wish I can achieve in the end.
Yeah.
Now, these days, we are relying on Massive MIMO to do it, which is okay. But Massive MIMO has scalability issue because Massive MIMO is so good for good reason because we have a lot of knowledge about the channel to start with. Without that, you cannot optimize the signal so that you can avoid interference. Okay, that's the fact. Okay. So this is so good, okay, 5G, it's all right, okay, we can use 64 base station antenna to serve up to 12 users, okay, on the same channel. But if we look ahead and say, how do we go from serving 12 users to 500 users, 1,000 users? Then we may be thinking about, okay, does it mean that we need 5,000 antennas, 1,000 antennas at least to do it?
Yeah.
Then maybe we can. Maybe the hardware is not as expensive as before, but well, even that is questionable. But the main problem is that you need to estimate the channel state information for a huge number of users.
But doesn't it become very complex?
Yeah, it's so
in the
complex.
Real world scenario.
And I think the scalability would put off a lot of people. I think my own assessment for 5G, why we are only dealing with 12 users on the same channel, even we have 64 antennas. A lot of people would be thinking like, well, of course, it's 64 antenna, 12 users. Because of massive MIMO, right? We always need more antennas than the number of users to do it.
Definitely.
But I would disagree. Okay, I disagree with this viewpoint. Because because I read paper and I look at the standard and see, well, are we actually using massive MIMO, okay, for 5G? Of course, massive MIMO, okay, I don't know what is the precise definition.
Yeah.
But in my definition, if you are actually using massive MIMO technology, that means you should be using match filtering, okay, for precoding. Because this is why you need the extra number of antenna so that you can do the law of large number thing, then you can average out the interference, okay? If you're using that, yes, you're doing massive MIMO, okay? If not, let's say if I'm using 64 antenna, but I actually doing a lot of optimization, let me doing MMSE precoding, okay? Let me do zero forcing precoding. If you do that, this is not massive MIMO.
Yeah.
In my definition, you are actually doing multi-user MIMO, kid, okay? You're actually doing multi-user MIMO. So yes, I can see that you actually have extra lot more number of antenna, but you are actually still doing MMSE precoding. This is not massive MIMO, okay? This is actually what 5G is doing. So therefore, I think, no, you are actually not doing massive MIMO. But then the question is, if you are not doing massive MIMO, but you're doing MMSE precoding, why you're doing 12 users? You can do 64 users.
Yeah.
You have 64 RF chains, 64 base station antenna. So the industry already paid the cost for the base station. Why stopping you? What's stopping you? Okay. The industry should be like, I need to support more user. Why 12 user? We need to support 64 user. We can. We have enough degree of freedom.
Yeah.
Degree of freedom is not a problem right now. So, of course, I don't have I don't know what's the correct answer, but my understanding when I look at those evidence is that I think the bottleneck is not the degree of freedom at the base station, because you do have the degree of freedom. You have the RF chains. It's not like you have 64 antennas, but you only have 12 RF chains. No, you're not doing hybrid precoding. You actually have full 64 RF chains. So the problem is CSI. Is the channel state information at the base station that you couldn't get it done if you scale it up, try to deal with more than 12 users. Let's say, how about 30 users? Can you do it? Maybe you think, no, we can't do it, okay? Because the protocol, it's too much overhead. We can't really do it. Or maybe if we allocate more resources to do it, even we have the CSI, maybe it's too late, okay? The precoding is not as accurate. So, well, maybe we need to be more realistic. We stop at 12 users. So that's why, if this is true, I'm not saying this is 100% true because this is just my understanding. I think this is the reason. Then believing that extra large MIMO would be scaling up the network, is too optimistic, right? It's too optimistic. I think it's still the way to go. I'm not against that. I think this is still the way to go. We need to raise up the number of antenna at the base station for 6G, 7G. We need to keep raising it. That's for sure. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe we can do AI to do the CSI feedback better, whatever. Okay, everything comes into play and then to help that. But I think just purely rely on that, it is a dead end. Okay.
So what do you think about the alternatives to extra large massive MIMO and because scalability is an issue.
Yeah, it's an
to
issue.
implement.
So there are in my activities, I realized so far that there is two ways to help that. Okay.
Yeah.
So therefore, we should still be thinking about using extra large MIMO or ultra massive MIMO at the base station. But one direction would be either Okay, I'm not saying which one we should take, but one possibility is that, maybe we don't rely on instantaneous CSI for pre-coding. Maybe we only use statistical CSI for pre-coding, unfortunately, okay? Yes, instantaneous CSI would be more precise, but we can't really do it because every millisecond you need to redo these, okay?
Yeah.
So let me run through some numbers, okay? So you will be scared. If let's say I use 1,000 antennas to serve 1,000 users, okay? Let's say the power consumption is addressed, whatever, but this is over another problem, okay? If you speak to industry people as well. So let's say it's fine. I can actually have 1,000 antennas at the base station. So I have 1,000 RF chain. Let's assume that we are living in the real in a very ideal world.
Quite a lot, but yeah.
But then. Serving 1,000 users, right? You can, okay? Let's say I can do zero forcing, right? But then, so you need to estimate 1,000 channel coefficient for each user, but for 1,000 user, you need to estimate 1 million complex channel coefficients in the uplink, in the uplink. Okay. So in the and then feedback, okay, right? You estimate, in the downlink, let's say you estimate the CSI from the downlink, and then you feedback on the uplink, right? Okay, or TDD, it's TDD, right? And then you feedback. So, but the problem is that the coherence time, channel coherence time, is typically in milliseconds. Sometimes it's a little bit longer, sometimes it's a little bit shorter. Let's say 1 millisecond. So estimate and feedback 1 million complex parameters and do it every millisecond is a pain, obviously, right? It's a pain. Not to mention another thing I think a lot of people miss is we talk about coherence time a lot, but I think if we involve more user, coherence time would reduce. This is just the physics of of what happened. Why you may think, how come? You're talking about number of users, then independently, coherence time, should they be independent somehow? Well, maybe it feels that way. But I think in reality, it's not. Because if you look at one particular user, slowly, okay, this 1 millisecond. The other user, slowly, 1 millisecond coherence time. But the coherence time, they don't align. You see? Coherence time period, they are not synchronized, okay? But if you talk about smaller number of users, maybe they look synchronous fine. It's kind of okay to look at the same 1 millisecond that, maybe these 20 users, the channel do not change that much.
Yeah.
It is realistic to find those 20 users. But now, 1,000 users. Well, it's harder to find those 1,000 users that exactly this period of 1 millisecond, their channel all not changing considerably, okay? So it would be harder, okay? So therefore, maybe it's less realistic to actually look at extreme large number of user situation and still believing that you can actually have reliable CSI available at the base station for doing pre-coding. So we need to rethink about how pre-coding is done. So therefore, statistical CSI is one thing because, probably 10 seconds, maybe even longer. This is being static, so it's all right, okay?
Yeah.
So we need to make sure that we can find a solution where pre-coding based only on statistical CSI, and then you can still serve huge number of users on the same channel. That's one direction. The other direction is, how about we just abandon CSI at the base station? Okay? This is one, okay, I'm not suggesting we need to go down that road, But in fact, this is my motivation in my research because I like to just, can we be, because I think that, to be creative, a lot of people already invest so much and then believing that this is the only way to go. We need CSI at the base station and then to do our resource allocation, all that. I still believe this is the way to go. So I'm not against that.
Yeah.
But I think in order to really overcome the scalability challenges, I think we need to start afresh to think of other ideas, okay? That's why I make myself a difficult assumption, which is, what if I don't have CSI to start with? But I still want to do multiple access. What do I do? So then that is one big direction that I'm investing a lot over the past few years, okay? And it turns out that the free and test system research that I'm working on actually can help in those directions, okay? So let me give you an example. Well, MIMO, multi-user MIMO, master MIMO, why it's so powerful is because we know, okay, user channel are different, independent, but if we know their channel characteristic, I can shape the signal using precoding so that the intended signal only going to the desired user, but not going to the interference. This is what we do. So we're artificially creating separation in space between users, artificially, okay? But interestingly, my understanding now is that if we don't create artificial separation between users' signals in space, in fact, the environment creates those separation, okay, between users. How is that? Now, remember what is free antenna system. Free antenna system is like I can change the position of the antenna in space, okay? So compared to the conventional antenna technology where I only have one signal, because I fix, maybe I have this signal in this location, I have one signal, and I need to just bet on it, okay, good signal, bad signal, what is the signal to interference noise ratio? This is what it is, right?
Yeah.
But now I have a space where I can receive the signal conceptually, like, okay, not just one single signal, but a continuous signal in space, okay? So then what happened? If we look at the signal from one particular user, you will see the signal go up and down like that, right? And like in a continuous manner, right? Because signal is correlated in a confined space. But one thing that we should notice is that signal in some location disappear. Why? Fading. Because of multipath fading, okay? Multipath fading is has been a pain for decades for wireless communications engineers, scientists, professors, researchers. Why? Because we would like to avoid it. We don't know when it happened. When it happened, we're dead.
Yeah.
So that's why we do a lot of resource allocation, channel coding, power control,
Indeed.
whatever. We do MIMO, mix the channels so that, okay, fading is less likely to happen, whatever. But now I look at the problem in the opposite direction and say, okay, how about try to realize the fact that this is actually a good thing that could ever happen to wireless communication in terms of multi-user communications. Because if I now look at the signal that I can access, the signal go up and down, some location, boom, disappear. So that means my interference would have similar characteristics. So another signals come in, maybe interference, I have the same space, but maybe the signal that I don't want have a defect in some location, so this signal just disappear for me. So, but if my own signal survive in that location, I can just switch the location of the antenna in that space. I receive
to actually get the signal.
Yeah, I get my signal without interference. I don't need precoding. I don't need power control. And I also don't need interference cancellation to receive it because there's nothing for you to cancel. Interference just gone.
Yeah.
So these give me a different take on multiple access. So that's how I call it free antenna multiple access. This is of course the easiest version of dealing with this. And in fact, since we have this idea, we have different version of this. Okay, so maybe we don't just get one signal. Okay, we actually try to activate multiple position and then do analog beamforming of that. So therefore, okay. These ideas somehow mix analog and digital signal processing in there, okay? So then, okay, this idea, when we try to implement it, okay, we're trying to implement it, so therefore we need to design an antenna hardware which can actually change the position of the antenna.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of ideas that we do. One using metamaterial, which we can actually reconfigure the antenna aperture in the space. So therefore we actually can change it's like changing the position of the antenna without changing any object position, right?
Yeah.
So, but I mentioned about the reconfigure pixels ideas earlier. So reconfigure pixel ideas is totally different thing, okay? It's more like a puzzle. You have a lot of small pieces, all right? So by the look of it, you may think like, oh, that's like an RIS. But I would say, no, this is not an RIS. If it is RIS, you can see a lot of this mini structure. Each one is antenna, right?
Yeah, mini materials. Yeah.
But actually, it's not. Reconfigure pixel. Each pixel is not an antenna. So, but all of these pixels are kind of connected, okay, to each other. But the connection need to be optimized, okay? So it's more like I put Lego together. I need to optimize the connection between the Legos so that it creates something out of it, okay? So cut all long story short, how we do the optimization? The interesting thing is that these reconfigurable pixel idea, if we do it correctly, it can, after optimization, create an antenna out on this surface which have different shape, different position, different polarization, different orientation, different radiation pattern, like that.
You can play with many
yeah?
diversities, yeah.
So now the interesting thing of these, okay, about the ETI that recently we get it accepted is that is about mixing electromagnetic theory with information theory or signal processing. This is exactly an architecture that scream that we need that. Because these architecture actually say that if we have this architecture, we're actually integrating optimization of electromagnetic responses of structures, dynamic structures, and signal processing as well, okay? So we're using that for communication. Yes, so there's still communication theory, signal processing on top of it. But now the optimization actually mixed with optimization that we need to do for creating the antenna structure itself.
Yeah.
So therefore the EM optimization is integrated into the signal processing. So therefore I think this is a very timely ETI. That's why what I'm saying. So that's why I'm also saying free antenna system actually match align exactly on this sort of ESIT ETI.
So, Kit, I mean, this is very fascinating, actually, what you have described. So, I also wanted to touch very quickly before concluding our podcast was what are the complexities that are associated with these implementations? Because you see that, I mean, optimization requires some computation and all. So how do you think about that?
First of all, it would depend on the type of technology that we implemented.
Yeah.
Let's say using the metamaterial idea that we do, in fact, the optimization, the complexity goes in a different way, okay? The implementation complexity is not that hard. Well, I don't know it, so therefore I would consider it very complex. But the antenna people, they make it, once they know how to make it, well, it's not complex. Yeah, of course, it would be a little bit more expensive than the conventional antenna because it's so cheap these days. But one thing that we try to control when we do this idea is like, okay, we need to control the number of RF chains.
Yeah.
Because we believe RF chains is the most expensive stuff in that sort of structure, okay? So the farmer idea, okay, the extreme cases where we only need one RF chains. But of course, more RF chains could bring more degree of freedom and then we can do better, okay? So therefore, in terms of complexity, it's not overwhelmingly problematic because, of course, more research needs to be done to look
We're
into
coming
that.
with the hybrid beamforming as well to sort
so
out.
The hardware, I'm not too concerned yet, but even though it's not very cheap now, of course, but I'm not concerning too much on that. In terms of signal processing, of course, channel estimation is going to be a different problem compared to the conventional one.
Yeah.
This could be disastrous at the beginning when I look at it because I try not to look at it because it could be a problem.
Yeah.
But in fact, in recent years, when we really try to approach the channel estimation problem, it's not as terrible as we initially thought because we have spatial correlations, right? with spatial correlation. Therefore, if we have a resolution like a lot, like even 1,000 positions that we can switch, it doesn't mean that you need to estimate CSI for 1,000 positions because you have spatial correlation.
Yeah.
You probably need to estimate maybe 10, and then using complex sensing, AI, whatever that is, and then you can reconstruct, the channel as well. So therefore, it is not that terrible, okay? But I'll be lying to you if I say, it's so simple. No, because it's still in the middle of research, it's the middle of development. But complexity-wise, it wouldn't scare me now, okay? Even though there are more work to be done. And in fact, about the complexity, remember when I say that pharma for antenna multiple access is a really, really fascinating problem to work on?
Yeah.
Because it really eliminates the need of doing pre-coding. We do multiple access just from the receiver viewpoint. Okay, whatever signal comes in, we deal with it, okay?
Filter them
because
out of the
interference
receiver.
would be gone by natural propagation, okay?
Yeah.
Of course, it's not that simple if we scale up to a larger number of users, but still, there are a lot of things that we can do from the receiver side. And in fact, one of the recent results that we have is that if you replace a conventional antenna at the user by a free antenna system, but then you plug it into a massive MIMO scenario, I can simply use statistical CSI for doing pre-coding, and it would work magic, okay? You don't need instantaneous CSI for pre-coding for massive MIMO. So therefore, yes, I start the problem by saying that I have no CSI at the base station, and then doing that. But in the end, when it integrated into the conventional thing, I can make it easier. Okay, so increase the scalability.
Yeah. Interesting, Kit. I mean, very fascinating ideas, and it looks really. The future really looks bright to me.
I'm happy to hear that.
So we still need to see a bit more sort of validation to the idea.
Yes.
But
so that's what I'm actually trying to do. And in fact, when we start publishing in the first 1-2 years, it was a big struggle. When we submit paper, people don't like it, and people even ask, okay, is it real? Okay, do you have the hardware? Do you have measurement data? So of course, I was so puzzle at that time. I'm a theorist. I never make antenna. So now people
but are there industry activities going on now on this?
Of course, I collaborate with people from the industry as well. But right now, still mainly even implementation, we will take responsibility to do it. Okay, and then to see what happens. I think people are too busy about the 6G cycle. And we hope that we have more evidence to convince people to validate that this is really... But of course, from the measurement data that we have, I think we have sufficient confidence that, going forward, hopefully we'll be getting more and more people believing this idea.
So I think if there are more stakeholders from industry, if they're interested in the technology, they picked up on race, they picked up on now holographic MIMO.
And one last point I'd like to mention is that yes, I'm speaking probably in this podcast mostly like a traditional wireless communication problem, massive connectivity, whatever. But in fact, like I said, free antenna system can be simply interpreted as a new degree of freedom. So therefore, you can actually introduce this idea into whatever problem you work on.
Multiple use cases you can have, multiple applications.
ISAC, for example, we did some work on ISAC, using free antenna system, mobile edge computing, backscattering communication, federated learning communication. So
for applications in non-terrestrial networks,
UAV,
AI-based systems.
So you can always see gain. It's a matter of whether the gain is significant or less significant.
Exactly. Yeah, interesting, Kit. So I think it's very nice to hear your thoughts on this technology, and I'm sure that this technology will pick up and hopefully we get to see like a lot of interesting,
we'll love another opportunity probably next year to come and then give you another update. What's going on now? Is it dead or is it growing?
Definitely. It will go on, I'm sure. So thank you, Kit, for joining us in today's podcast, and hopefully we catch up next year again, and we talk more about these ideas and these work that you have been doing, and hopefully we can collaborate as well around these ideas.
Yeah, we'd love to.
And it looks very interesting.
Well, we'll see each other at the workshop, at the first workshop.
Exactly, we have a workshop coming in London. Yeah. So definitely. So with this, thank you so much, Kit, and see you next time in our next podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.